After your career at Washington, you ended up declaring for the NFL draft after your junior season, and you were drafted by the Tennessee Titans in the second round of the 2014 NFL draft, the first running back taken in that draft. Can you kind of describe that moment, that feeling? Like, I don't know if you close your eyes for a second, if you can kind of bring us back to that moment in time.
It didn't feel real. Like it just felt like all the years of preparation and that moment was here where you get drafted and you're lucky enough to get your name called, during the draft. And I was just at my dad's house and I had family out and everybody was just having a good time and I was celebrating with family and yeah, I just remember getting on the phone and just thinking about like what was next and trying to anticipate like, what it would be like moving to a new city, starting with a new team, getting your start in the NFL. And so there were just so many thoughts, I guess, racing through my mind at the time, but it was just a good moment, a special moment. And yeah, it was just like that was the day like where my dreams came true. So I was just excited for that.
The Titans had Chris Johnson. They released him shortly before they drafted you. Was there any pressure on your end to fill shoes like that? Because Johnson rushed for more than 2,000 yards. I think it was in 2009. Did you feel pressure on that end, or was that something that didn't even cross your mind?
I think it's hard to just ignore like all the noise and like knowing that you're gonna be the successor of like Chris Johnson and he was just obviously one of the best running backs in the NFL at the time. So I did feel a lot of pressure coming in and not just pressure from like the external noise, but just from internally myself, wanting to do a good job and wanting to pick up the plays and just get acclimated to a new system. And so I definitely felt pressure, as a young rookie. And that was one of my main things. Like when I first moved to Nashville was just trying to pick up the playbook as quickly as possible and get used to the new system that I was playing in.
How are you able to temper those expectations? Because I think the noise on the outside, of course, like that's what everyone sees, that's what everyone hears. The internal noise, what's in our own mind, that's unique to us, and that's almost like it's just something that we hear. Like how are you able to kind of work through that internal noise, or just and I don't just mean that playing in the NFL, just in a general sense throughout your life?
Yeah, well, I think I feel like I'm normally pretty good at that, at working through like that, I guess working focusing or working through that internal pressure and noise. But during that time, that was just kind of like a challenging time, just a roller coaster of a season, my rookie year, and then second year as well, because our coach was fired and everything, and just we weren't the best team. I think we won 2 games my rookie year, and then my second year we won 4 games, and a lot of that time we were like rotating running backs. We had like a running back by committee, and so we were rotating quite a few guys, and so it was just hard to really kind of gain that same confidence that I had as a player in college, with just like because I want to say sometimes the running back who had the most touches in a game would only really have maybe like 5 or 6 touches, and that's because we like would rotate so many guys throughout the span of a game. And then by like halftime, unfortunately, like we would be in situations where we were like forced to throw the ball more so than run the ball. So I think just working through that internal noise was a challenge my rookie year and my like rookie year and second year in the league, just because things weren't going how they were, expected, I guess, on the field. So, but normally, I guess in the big picture, like I've always tried to be one to like think positive and remain optimistic and continue to move forward. Like and just try to use your past experiences to build off of, and just do things like everyday things, like just words of affirmation, like speak positive self talk, stuff like that. And so that's kind of what I focused on throughout my college career when things were going great, and then professional career when things were like a little more rocky or just more of a, I guess, a role uncertainty as to how things would turn out. So yeah.
I think those little things like affirmations or journaling or meditation, I think those are all so important. And it's not just doing it when things are good. My counselor and I chat about it all the time. And it's not only about like when things are good, but when things aren't good, continuing to do those things, whether it be the affirmations, a journaling, or a meditation. to keep that like consistency level and to kind of maybe mitigate those moments um, of turmoil, I guess would probably be the best way to describe it on my end. I do want to, kind of touch on something you mentioned earlier. You said that your high school coach, David McKenna over at Gonzaga Prep, he talked about adversity and how you handle adversity. And in the NFL, you definitely had your share of that. After 2 years, you were cut by the Titans. How did you handle the adversity, and how did you push through that?
I just, again, just try to move forward and keep, I guess, focusing on the positive, like even though things were happening, like getting released, that's never good. That never feels good. Getting cut, it sucks. But it's like, okay, now what can I do next? Don't let what you can no longer do affect what you can do. Like, bad things that happen, they're in the past. Like how do you move forward and how do you try to look for new opportunities and stuff. And so when I got released, from the Titans, that wasn't the first time I was cut, or that wasn't the last time I was cut. So for me, it was just like I called my agent up and wanted to just hear about like the options and that's kind of what you do. Like you just call your agent and hope for the best. And so through this whole time, I was just like continuing to train and stay ready in case I got a call. And so I ended up bouncing around my third year, played with the Patriots briefly, the Kansas City Chiefs, and then the Minnesota Vikings. Then I ended the year, my third season with the Vikings, and then was called back my fourth year and played with the Vikings as well. And so I ended up tearing my ACL that fourth preseason, that was just bad timing is also. But I think, I just try to always think about like, what could I be doing despite the circumstances to get better and improve my, for down the line and for the future.
I don't know if you have an answer to this, but the Titans only gave you 2 years. And when I think about just sports in general, giving somebody 2 years to understand a system, to deal with coaching staff changes, player personnel changes, like that's not a lot of time. The short leashes that you have in pro sports it's crazy, man. Cause like 2 years is not enough time. That is not enough time from my POV. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's just kind of the culture in sports. They want production instantly, in a lot of sense, or a lot of times. Like they want guys to come in and just be, remarkable, from the bat, off the bat. And that's kind of just how it is with, in sports. I think with the Titans, they wanted to just give me a chance maybe somewhere else, even though it didn't work out with them. They were probably thinking like, hey, he'll get another chance somewhere else and, be able to make the best out of it, somewhere else. So I think that's kind of just what their thought process was at the time. But going into my third preseason, I felt like I had a really good, preseason. But of course, they drafted Derrick Henry, who's like one of the best running backs in the league now, and then they brought in DeMarco Murray, who was like Pro Bowler at the time. So it was just a full running back room. And I was also kind of dealing with like little injuries. I had like a high ankle sprain during my third preseason that I've suffered the last preseason game that year. And looking back, I probably should have like brought more attention to it, but I kind of saw the writing on the wall, and I felt like if I would have like, um, spoke up about it or said, brought more attention to it, that could affect like my potential opportunities down the line with other teams. Looking back, I probably should have said something and then would have had to, get it x-rayed and stuff. But I was just like, oh, I'll tough it out. I'll deal with it. It'll get better through my whole third year. So really my whole third year, I was just like battling this high ankle sprain that I kind of swept under the rug. And then going into my fourth year, my ankle finally started feeling better. And I had a good preseason with the Vikings, was doing well. I had a legitimate chance to make the roster my fourth year. But they drafted Dalvin Cook, they brought in Latavius Murray, and Jerick McKinnon was there, I think he's still playing. So that was another full room. So I had a legitimate chance to make the roster because they did keep a fourth back that year. Even though I was on IR, they brought another guy in who was like on the roster that year. So But unfortunately, tore my ACL that year, and it was just, bad timing. So for me, like after that happened, I just wanted to, my biggest thing was working to heal up and come back from the ACL tear, but then also like try to figure out like what think about like what I want to go into after football ends, because at that point in time I wasn't sure of like what my future in football looked like, just given how things had gone up to that point. And I know like running back shelf life isn't long, it's like one of the most devalued positions in the league. And so I just think that's just we see what's going on now with running backs. So those are like guys that are, super productive, main guys on the offense. So I just think that's at that time, knowing that like how running backs are viewed, I just tried to figure out ways to set myself up for, I guess, life after football, or start working towards that now. So when the time did come to actually transition completely, it would be like as easy as possible.